Hello guys, welcome back to Hey Manager with me Alex, and today another HayChat video, and one that's close to my heart. We're talking about Marcus Rashford today. Now Marcus Rashford, he has currently been under so much criticism. Honestly, his game, everyone has had their say on Marcus Rashford. Now, I've stayed out of it. I've always hailed Rashford. He's come through the academy, homegrown player, local to me, came from Wythenshawe, goes to the Carrington training ground, local to me, and obviously as a massive Manchester United fan, I believe he's one of our best ever players. Manchester United, born and bred, so many, the success story of this, coming through the academy, the class of 92, all those success stories there, but you look at Ryan Giggs, you look at Beckham, what they achieved, Ryan Giggs with the longevity, Beckham with the superstardom, Rashford, I think he's up there with those type of characters, and yeah, to me, probably one of the best to ever do it in a Manchester United shirt. Now, obviously, people have other opinions, and that stems from his current form, his current ability, how he's been playing of late. And as you can see here in all competitions this year, we'll just go through his stats there. 41 matches played, 27 minutes per 90, like full 90s, 2,428 minutes, 19 goals and assists. So that's that's 0.7 goal contributions per game, which is mega, really, if you think about it. It's nearly a goal or assist per game. Then expected assists 5.2, shot creating actions 82, and successful take-ons 37. So I do those stats because I think he's more of a creative winger than he is a attacking winger at the moment. Currently, I think he's adapted to the modern game. I think he's very good at his distribution, very good at slowing the ball down. Then we went to cross, then we went to take someone on. I think he had a blip last year, 3 years ago, we had a blip, but we saw that through injuries, we saw that through managers, the numerous amount of managers that we went through. We saw it through the hate that he was getting. His head dropped, and then we saw the result of that. It was obviously not playing well on the pitch. Now, to me, Marcus Rashford, and the reason why Barcelona are going to want him is because of his output, it's because of his creative ability and his actual ability on the ball. His output, to me, is pretty high, or at least his creating actions is very high, should I say. So goal creating actions, shot creating actions, something that I've always held in good stead. 3.04 there for shot creating actions. So that is an action. It could be winning the ball back, but it has to be two actions, should I say, actually. It needs to be winning the ball back, then playing a pass. It needs to be a successful take on, then playing a pass. It needs to be, winning a duel, and then playing a pass. It needs to be something that then leads to a shot creating action. So it could be carrying the, tackling, carrying the ball, and then shuttling it off, and then there's a shot from that. Now, that could be one. You never know. So, to me, him getting 3.04 point per game shows he has that creative ability, shows that even if there is no output towards the end, a physical output, that shows he has a creative ability, which is something that I think he's been sort of criticised for, which I think is he's overhated for, really. It's unfair, it's unjust. Successful take-ons, now this is something that we can talk about. 1.37, not really brilliant per game. If your winger is only having a successful 1.5 take-ons per game, not even a full 2. You'd want at least 2 per game out of a winger. Someone who's going to really take someone on, someone's going to beat a man. I mean, Doku, prime example. Someone who can beat a man and create something, that's brilliant. But yeah, Rashford does things in other ways. Shot creating actions comes from his skills on the left, then his just ability to pull the ball back, doesn't need to take someone on, but can just see a pass, and his accuracy and his technique stems above all. But I think one thing that I want to actually take a look at are his overall stats. I'll basically I want to look at how he's performed in recent years and how he's done at Aston Villa. Compare everything. I wanted to do it across all competitions because it's only fair we do so. So, in fact, no. Let's do it by domestic. Let's do it by domestic league. Excuse me. Let's have a look quickly at how he actually fares in the domestic league. So let me flick onto that very quickly. Here we go. So Marcus Rashford, domestic league stats, goals, records. To me, this is where you can see the stats. You can see things like this, but it doesn't paint the full picture. But to me, it's critical to be looking at this sort of thing. So let me just zoom in for you now, as I think I've zoomed in too far. There we go, perfect. So Yeah, we can see all of his stats from when he was 17 started up until now he's 26, which is 9 years, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. Same age as me, turned 27 this year, but pretty much the same age as me, maybe a year ahead. But looking at how he's performed here, you can see how he peaked around 21, 22. Then he had that big injury where he was limited. He only had 13 starts, very limited in that year where they finished sixth. Then came back again for the year with under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where we had a very successful season. Oh no, he got sacked there, didn't he? And then we had, I'm trying to remember the the whole path for Manchester United. That was Ten Hag's season where we had a fantastic year. Actually, that was Ten Hag. Then we had the year with Ten Hag where we finished eighth and we didn't do too well. He had a very weird coming and going. He didn't really, he didn't start that many games. There was a lot going on with that striker position on the left-hand side, Garnacho or Sancho, and then so on and so forth. Anthony came into the play. Then we had last year, which was under Amorim, and a bit of Ten Hag at the beginning. Then we obviously had the Villa stint. So, to me, if you look at this, just as his standard stats, he's been pretty consistent towards the start of his career, but obviously this injury really was a big blow to him. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked. A lot of things went on. We had Rangnick where he didn't get played, didn't get started, had very few minutes. Again, the head dropped under Rangnick, which just didn't suit him. And we also then saw him come back into life when he played that Ten Hag number 9 role because we had no striker. Martial obviously out injured, not doing too great. So that's why we had a lot of, you can see his XG shot up massively, but he outperformed his XG, which is something which impresses me. It does, it should be something that you actually praise him for. But yeah, so that's the standard stats. You can see his career is pretty decorated. He's not really done much. He's finished second a few times, second, third. He's always been up there with Manchester United, but then in recent years, it's really fell off. And that, I think if you look into the deeper stats, so you look at your shots here, so shots per 90, you can see it's really fallen off. At Villa, it's gone higher up, but it really fell off at Manchester United. You can see he was sort of falling into that sort of creative role, which wasn't really something that you think he liked to do. He wanted to be a bit more attacking, a bit more direct, but he went into this more creative role, had to step the ball back, wasn't taking as many shots, wasn't given the opportunities. Then you look at the stats here, you can see the live stats for the passes really dropped off. He started getting a few more passes, but you can see here, passes complete, not really too high either. Then shot and goal creation, so you can see his shot creations, actions, he sort of dropped off quite a fair bit. He still had a fair few, and he had a pretty decent season under that strange one with Amorim and under Ten Hag, and when we won the actual FA Cup, he had a pretty decent season. But then I think the main one I want to look at here is his take-ons, and this paints a good picture because you can see how confident, how well, all the attempts that he had at the top, getting up to that 50%. Had that season where he got a bit injured, obviously came back after that, played that number 9 role where he didn't really do too well. Shoved that back outside, so 44%. Then last year, or this year should I say, under the Amorim / Ten Hag regime, of 23.1%. How on earth? His head either dropped or something fell off. Now, I don't want to go into the personal life of him because I don't believe majority of what's been said about him. But how he can have a fall off like that, when I know under Rangnick and Solskjaer and all those different managers that came back and forth, Ruud van Nistelrooy, blah blah blah, all those different bits here that happened prior to this, that 23.1, he was doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden, bang, and then back to Villa, and it's up. The numbers are back up there. So interesting to me anyway how it all works out. You can, when you read into the stats, it gets better. But then as you can see here, he always made Manchester United a little bit better on the pitch. You can see here, plus minus, so goals scored minus goals allowed. So you can always see he was always in the positive. He had a bit of a bad season here. This was the year where he didn't play as many games. Obviously got the injury, matches played 25. He got the injury minus 10. So I can see why it's less. But then we had the year where we were under Ten Hag, which was a bit of a difficult year. Didn't have that great of one, but as you can see here, still managed to do well. Then under Amarin and Ten Hag for the start of the season still did pretty well. As you can see here, on and off, plus slash minus net per 90, really, really high. So obviously he's contributing, he's doing well, and that's something that you can read into. Obviously there's the nuances. If you combine them all, we get into these sort of like regions where you like have to start looking at things and understanding, is he actually going to be, is it actually like Rashford, or is it the team as well? You need to really acknowledge that. But if you just have a look at this here, so what I want to do, we're going to have a look at like, what Rashford's strengths are and where maybe he's lacked and maybe where he could have done better. But for me, if you just look at like his shooting statistics here, so we'll just quickly flick onto Rashford again, go down to his shooting statistics. So if you look at how many shots he took per 90, so you look at the amount of goals there, shots on target and shots. So shots really fell off. He had a lot of shots towards the start of his career, injury. Shots again, when he's up front, the number 9, taking more volume shooter, and back into that wide position in 60. Then after that, 16 and 18. So 34 over the full year. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. That's close to the amount he had when he got injured in that year. So it's not really much. And then when you look at his shots per 90, again, falls off a cliff. Obviously, quite a few at Aston Villa, you can see quite high. But then, shots on target per 90 quite good. And goals per shot at Manchester United was unbelievably high. Now, with Aston Villa, had a few more shots, didn't get as many goals, but his creative ability shone through. Now, that's where, he was given that ability to just be more creative and try and take a few more attempts, which are most, as you can see here, distance-wise, were mostly outside the box. He only got those chances outside the box. But if you look at Manchester United, pretty much the majority comes from inside the box, and it's a 0.25 this year, which is the highest he had. I know he only had like 10.99, 10.990s, 1190s, so to speak. Only like, what's that, about 990 minutes, say. But 0.25, that's unbelievable. So 1 in 4 shots is going to go in. That is really high. And as you can see here in the top 5 European leagues, that puts him in 18th out of everyone. So he's up there with the likes of Chris Wood, Muani, those type of players. If you can look at here as well, he's above the likes of where are they now? I'm trying to find them. Omega, Orban. You look at some of these players. Santiago Jimenez, Lewandowski up there as well. Visser. He's above all them. So his goals per shot ratio is really high, which shows efficiency, which is what I'm going to try and get onto. So then if we look at sort of the other comparisons that we have for him here as well, which is something I really want to look at. This is something that I think is a unique thing to look at here now, is Marcus Rashford over, many a years, if this wants to actually load, which would be brilliant. Marcus Rashford over the years has been compared to a lot of different players. But what I want to look at is them top 4 players that are United players, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, what they did this year, and then look at have 2 people to bounce off. So Mbeumo, obviously now United player now, but played for Brentford, had a standout season. Then Rafinha as well, foreign player, but in the Liga BBVA, and how he performed. So Rashford, having some of the least starts out of anyone here, matches played, should I say, and least starts, and some of the least 90s. Anthony got a few more minutes than him, but Rashford taking off early. As you can see here, the goal contributions wise, he actually sits above, and this is in the domestic league, should I say, this is domestically, he sits above Sancho, Anthony, and Garnacho with less starts and less minutes, which is pretty unbelievable if you ask me. I'll be honest with you, the output wise, if you look at what he's got, so expected goals there, 4.8, highest of the 4. Again, so you look at the expected goals, expected assists, he's pretty much up there. Sancho quite high, per 90 for assists, but if you look at goals and assists, by far stands out by anyone else, 0.15 more than anyone else. Every other game he's getting a goal or assist just over, and to me that stands out. So I think for me, he's very, very good, Marcus Rashford. And then if you look at the next rival, which is Mbeumo, 27 goals and assists, but if you look at his per 90 stats, still quite close to him. Only 0.14 away. So as much as Anthony, who was just behind Rashford, you go Anthony's to Rashford's level, and you go from Rashford to Mbeumo's level. It's the same sort of distances, same sort. He's looking at the different qualities of the player there, how their current ability looks, and Anthony's sort of in that middle ground. you're looking at your Garnachos and Sanchos, who are even less so. You got Antony, who's above them, and then you've got Rashford, who's above them, then Mbeumo, and then Rafinha, who's again a cut above the rest. Who's, you can just tell by the way that Barcelona play, just fantastic. So I just want to touch on this as well. Goals per shot, again, really high for Rashford, quite high for Sancho, and again, even beats Rafinha, who's rivaling Mbeumo in that area. I just want to have a look at this as well. You can see here how they outperform their expected goals and such. And Mbeumo completely outperformed it, had a freak season, plus 7.7 he outperformed it by. Rashford then again and Antony outperforming their XG. Garnacho underperforming, which is what you don't want, and same for Rafinha. So it shows like Barcelona, who are on the front foot, who have the quality around them. When you put it into context, Rafinha should be getting more goals and should be getting that more out of it. Rashford, surrounded by a team that isn't as good for half the season, goes to Aston Villa, who's got a great team, still outperforms his XG, 4 goals. You know what I mean? So that's what I want to see. That's the type of stats you want to read into. You could obviously you can pick the stats that you want to read into, but some stats stand out more than others, which is your, you want to be looking at expected goals and assists contributed per 90. That's a great stat to look at. You want to look at how people outperform their expected goals. That's another great one to look at. The other one that I like to look at as well is shot creating actions. So as you can see here, per 90, the group's pretty in sync, as you can see here. But goal creating actions, you can see Rashford sort of falls off. He does fall off as well with Garnacho, and that I think is more of a goal creating actions is great, but I think that's more of a team statistic. Your shot creating actions shows how good you are at producing, the ability to free someone up who could then have a shot. So to me, that's what Rafinha and Antony are so good at. Taking on players, doing 2 actions, so it can be taking someone on, then the pass, then for the shot. That's where the Brazilian flair comes in. That's where the take-ons and that's the magic of a shot creating action. It just shows a combination of actions that someone has to do to create a shot, which is then the creativity. It measures creativity quite well. So for me then, if you want to look at like possession, which is your take-ons, again, same for there. If you look at this success rates, Marcus Rashford not great at all. Sort of rivals Garnacho. Again, I think that's more of a confidence thing, if you ask me, and how the teams play. I don't think he really takes people on too much. But again, Jadon Sancho and Mbeumo and Rafinha need to be up there. He needs to get up there and get back to his usual self, Rashford, where he'd be able to take players on and find his ability to do so. So, to me, I think if you look at these stats, Rashford sort of sits a bit of a cut above Garnacho, Antony, Sancho. He is just that bit better, even in the sides that he didn't play that many games, didn't get that many 90s in, didn't have the opportunity to do so for me, and fits in these systems as a left winger. I think he's that cut above those 3, but then again, just sits in behind that Mbeumo and Rafinha roles, but has the potential to be that type of player. And the thing that I'll just quickly finish on it because I think it's very interesting. I'll be honest with you, I do think it's quite interesting, as I just realised that you couldn't really see Rashford and Sancho and all that on the screen, which is a bit annoying, but I'll just zoom out for you now. I think you can see them now on there, can't you? That's the order that they were in, which is frustrating. But if I just finish on this graphic, I'll just quickly finish on it now. So, Marcus Rashford, all competitions over the last 5 seasons. This is, Manchester United, and then for the 24-25 season, we have Aston Villa. And as you can see there, he does have that ability. We've seen him be a really creative menace. We've seen him have like the 2021 season where he was 22, I think he was, where he had a pretty good year. Then we saw him have 22-23, where we look at him now really shine through. The 21-22 is where he had his injury, but really shone through, got more goals and assists, actually managed to rival the expected assists and the shot creating actions and so on and so forth. We saw him have a 23-24 where under Ten Hag had struggled a little bit but still put up decent numbers. 13 goals and assists though, the output wasn't there, and I think that's mainly a bit of a team sort of criticism that you can have. And then we have the 24-25 season, which is the expected assist, which is this season, shot through the air, obviously a bit more creative, bit bit less self-focused, bit more creative, which is brilliant from my perspective because that's where he needs to head into, going a bit more of a modern-day winger where he can provide assists and score. Then you look at the actual goals and assists overall, 19, which is not too bad considering, you know, the season before he had less minutes, less matches played, but more goals and assists. And even then, like, you know, you're rivaling previous seasons at that. Then shot creating actions and successful take-ons. He needs to get back into the groove. He needs to get back into it, get more minutes in. He was on par to have a similar season to his 22-23 seasons in terms of take-ons. Shot creating actions, he'd probably actually beat that and actually have probably one of his best seasons going if he was to have played the amount of minutes that he was given in the 2021 and the 2022-23 season. So that's the sort of thing that I want to be looking at. That's the sort of stats that I take away from this. And I think the criticism is unfair from Rashford. For Rashford even. I think if you're going to look at him at Barcelona, you've seen how good he can be. You've seen the output he can have. In this league where, you know, Premier League, it's so hard against every single team. You know, he's been one of the best players for scoring against the top 6 teams. You look at the goals he scored against City, against Arsenal. Liverpool stands out to me as well, which is always difficult against Liverpool as a Manchester United player. Tottenham, you know, Chelsea did well against, scoring that screamer in the 4-0 we had. Just unbelievable sort of like player when he wants to be, and I think at Barcelona it will shine through. So all the criticism that the people make, I think it's all noise. I think you're going to see your best version of Rashford when he's in a good system. You've got people around him supporting you. You've got quality players around you as well that can also match his ability. Because obviously when you're playing at that level, you need other players to keep you at that level. Or if you're, you know, you've got players at this level down here, and they don't try and match yours, you're always going to creep down. You're always going to get back down to their level. So that's my take on the Rashford situation. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, as ever, please leave a like, subscribe if you are new. It really helps the channel out. Thank you for 273 sub-managers. And yeah, I hope you did enjoy this video. Check out my other videos that I make if you like FM Football Manager content. I do like predicting wonder kids at the moment, and also some of the HayChats where I talk about Garnacho, where he's going to go next, and other bits of the sort. So hope you enjoy it as ever. Hope you're all well, and I shall catch you in the next one. From Alex, have a great day. Ciao.